like to introduce you to Dr. Nathan Richardson and Val Neech, who have kindly agreed to give us their time today. I remember it was 2019, March, I listened to a speech by Sir James Bevan, who was the recently retired Chief Executive of the Environment Agency, where he started to talk about this thing that's become known as the jaws of death. It was the point at which water supply cannot meet water demand in the UK. And it's got a surprisingly short timescale. It's actually shorter than our carbon targets. Water supplies are are stressed. And so it is our duty as individuals and also as organisations to do what we can to improve our efficiency and also to prevent water pollution. So Nathan and Val are going to tell us more about how we can do that. So with no further ado, I will hand over to them. So Nathan.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Nathan Richardson from Waterwise. And I was there at that conference. It was a Waterwise conference back in 2019. And it was, we had Sky News, ITV News, BBC News. And it wasn't so much the fact that there's a problem with water availability. It was the sort of language that James Bevan was using, about wasting water should be as unacceptable as blowing smoke in a baby's face. It was really strong language, but he was basically trying to sort of, whip up recognition, and it certainly did that for some of the challenges that we're facing. So I head up the policy part of Waterwise. We're a not-for-profit NGO. We're very much focused on water efficiency, and that's our vision there, that water's used wisely every day, everywhere, by everyone. We work with all the UK water companies, plus a range of different businesses on their sort of water saving journey through campaigns, events, projects, and research and advocacy work. The next slide, please, Camilla. So this is what I'm going to talk about today. 4 sections: the water availability challenge, what are the benefits of saving water, some ideas on how you can save water, and then a couple of thoughts about next steps that you might want to take after the call, after the webinar. So next slide, please. So this is the big picture, and I'm big picture in terms of the whole globe. We've obviously got like a finite amount of fresh water on the globe, but what we've seen is the amount of fresh water that we're using going up and up and up over the last 100 years. It's going up over the last 40 or 50 years by about 1% a year. So we're using more and more of the available freshwater resources that we've got on the planet. Next slide, please, Camilla. So yeah, bringing it back to home, and yes, that's a picture of me when I was about like a couple of months old, I think. In the UK, personal water use, so what we're using in our homes, has gone up by about 60% in my lifetime, and that's through things like water using kit, like dishwashers, washing machines, all that sort of stuff, showers, but it's also through behaviours and changes in behaviours, and people basically generally using more water. We've also got a load more people, so we've got 13 million more people in the UK since I was a baby. So put those two things together, and there's a huge amount more demand. So 5 billion litres a day more demand from our own sort of personal use of water than when I was born. So that is going to put pressure on the environment, and it's increasingly recognised, not just by Waterwise, but by the government, the National Infrastructure Commission, Climate Change Committee, Environment Agency, a whole range of different organisations, that it just isn't sustainable for us to carry on as we're doing, and we need to get our water demand back down again and get a grip of it. So next slide, please. So that increase in demand, what does it look like? Well, at the moment, we're facing a deficit of around 4,000 megalitres a day, or 4 billion litres a day of water. So if we want growth, if we want to have secure water supplies, if we want to have a healthy environment, we're going to need to bridge that gap and find 4,000 megalitres a day more water. And that can be through new water resources, but more than 50% of that deficit has to come from reducing our demand. and that's us at home and in our workplaces. So next slide, please. Thanks. And why are businesses, why are workplaces so important? Well, around 20% of the water that's put into supply by the water companies is used outside of the home by businesses and other organisations like schools, hospitals, vets, and other businesses. So when you take out the leakage part of that, that's 30% of all the water we're consuming is happening outside of the home. So that's why businesses have got such a key part to play in the big picture of reducing water demand. So next slide, please. So and that's why we included in our new water efficiency strategy to 2030, which you can find on the web if you Google it, our 10th objective, which was all about organisations, businesses, being motivated to save water and being able to get hold of the advice and the information they need to actually do it. So next slide, please. And the other thing we've seen, this is obviously high on the political agenda at the moment, and the government, for the first time ever in England, has set a legal target to reduce water demand. So we've never had one before, but we've got one now, and it's basically to reduce water demand by 20% per head by 2038. And part of that target is an assumption that we'll be able to reduce business demand by 9% by 2038. So that's a challenge. That's a challenge out to all the people on this call. Could your business reduce its water demand by 9%? So next slide, please. Camilla.
Can I just ask a question there quickly, Nathan? What's the baseline on that?
2017, 2018. So
Right.
that's the government baseline.
Okay.
So yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, brilliant. So moving on to the second chunk. So that's the water availability challenge. What are the benefits? What's going to motivate? Why should a business try to look at saving water? So next slide, please, Camilla. Well, the first reason that I thought would be really relevant to this audience, given the investors in the environment, is the environment. And basically, every litre of water we use is a litre that we're taking out of the environment. Every litre we saved can be a litre that's left in the environment, and that environment is under stress. 1 in 7 of our wetland species are at risk of extinction. So these are the animals and plants that live in our rivers, streams, and wet places. So the more water we can leave in those places, the more chance we have of avoiding some of that risk. And what you also see is that, sorry, just to go back a slide, is there's a really high percentage of businesses or these non-household sites that are based in catchments with low water availability. So there's a direct link, but most businesses probably don't know that. But yeah, a big chunk of them are based in places that are really under water stress. So yeah, next slide, please. So yeah, the second reason is climate change. And we've often heard the sort of term that water is the medium by which climate change will be felt. And that's through things like flooding and drought and dry weather and hot weather. And the chance of these sort of hot weather and drought events is getting more and more frequent. They're more and more likely to happen as each year go past. And what does that mean for businesses? Well, it means that the risk of restrictions on supply, like temporary usage bans, non-essential use bans, even severe restrictions, which are basically cutting water off, is getting higher and higher. If we don't do something about it, those risks are going to become more and more likely to happen. And could your business survive without access to water? So it's in our interest to use that water wisely to reduce the chance of these sorts of restrictions happening. Next slide, please. So not only can saving water help with adapting to climate change, it can also help mitigate climate change and prevent us adding to the problem. So every litre of water that we use has a carbon footprint, from abstracting it, treating it, pumping it, getting it into people's houses, and then how we use it, heating it up for taps and showers and the like, and then disposing of it, treating of it, putting it back in the environment. So yeah, every litre of water and how we use water makes up about 6% of the UK's total carbon footprint, which is a massive chunk. It's a massive chunk, and it's also one of the easiest areas to actually reduce our carbon footprint by saving water, by using less water, particularly hot water. So saving water should be part of the net zero journey for organizations and businesses, and it's a double win. You're helping with the climate change, but you're also helping address our water availability challenges. The next slide, please. The fourth great reason to save water is around growth, and water's already becoming a constraint on growth. There are catchments and places in Sussex where you can't develop new houses, you couldn't start a new build a new business site because there's no water available. So planning permissions are being turned down, and there similar situations starting to emerge in other parts of the country as well. So our river catchments are at sort of zero. There's no more water available in a lot of our catchments. One of the things that some businesses are doing is going water neutral or water positive. So they're looking to minimize what they use and then to offset through savings elsewhere the residual amount of water that they need. So next slide, please. And then the last great reason to save water is saving money. And sorry, this slide looks a bit washed out on the screen, but basically there's a huge opportunity to save water. And these are some figures from Thames Water, from their program of going into businesses and helping them reduce wastage and improve efficiency. So these are average figures from schools, leisure centres, shops, hairdressers. In all cases, you can save water. I don't think they found anywhere where they couldn't save water. A lot of it is, but just by dealing with leakage and wastage issues, which I'll talk about in a minute. And obviously that saves you money on your water bill as a business, but it can also save you money on your energy bill, because energy use and energy bills often about as much as 30-40% of it can be down to how you're using water, and particularly hot water. So next slide, please. So hopefully that's given you a few good reasons as to why it's important, what are the benefits of saving water. So I'm going to talk now about the how, just a few tips of how we can save water. And this is a bit extreme on that slide there. Obviously taping over the tap with like hazard tape is a bit of an extreme measure. But basically there's three sort of key steps that you could think about. Firstly, understanding how much water you're using, and is any being wasted. The second chunk is about sorting out leaks and fitting more water efficient devices. And then the third chunk is about the culture in your business. If you've got a water saving culture, using water wisely in the things that people do in your business or organization. So I'm just touch on each of those things. So brilliant. So that first step really about knowing how much you use and where it's being used is really important, because without that information, it's really difficult to benchmark yourself against other similar businesses. I've included a link in the bottom right of this slide to a benchmarking tool that Thames Water have set up, which you can use to look at how much you use in comparison with other similar types of businesses. It's also difficult to set targets. You could, like the 9% I was talking about, if you don't know what you're using at the starting point, it's very difficult to know whether you've achieved like 9%, 10% reduction in water use. So getting a handle, understanding how much water is being used is really important. Now the water companies are rolling out smart meters, water meters, and the smart water meters basically give like quarter hourly or hourly reads on water use, and they're really shining a light really on how water is being used, but they're also shining a light on how much is being wasted in businesses. So what they've found from Thames Water's millions of smart meters that they've put out is that 30% of the water going into business sites is probably being wasted. which is frightening. That's a frightening figure. And they can tell this because there's consumption or flow through the smart meter in the middle of the night, day after day, you know, when you wouldn't expect it. So yeah, so it's a frightening figure, but it's a great opportunity as well. And in terms of the spread, you know, basically a quarter of business sites have got this leakage wastage problem. So it's not isolated cases. So next slide, please. Thanks. So some of the sort of devices and water efficiency sort of kit that you can use. You know, taps is an obvious one. So anything that uses less than 6 litres a minute is a pretty efficient tap. You can buy tap aerators which screw into your taps for, like, you know, 50p or so, and you can save hundreds of pounds on your water bill from putting those sorts of things in. And just as an example, they're like reducing hot water tap use by 2 minutes a day could save your business about £150 a year on its water and energy bill. So, you know, the savings can be, you know, reasonably good, especially when you wrap in the energy use. Next slide, please. So toilets is another area where we can save water. So if you've got dual flush toilets, if you've got your urinals in your business, are they being used properly? Are the settings set correctly? So it'd be amazing the number of like places that you go into where the urinals are operating at the weekends and you know, overnight, or water's leaking into the toilet. So do your staff know which button does what as well with the dual flush toilets? So some of the designs, like there's a couple there of like toilet button designs. It's really difficult to work out, you know, which is the low flow, which is the high flow. And it sounds really obvious, but it's, you know, every time you get it wrong, you're wasting a few litres of water. So, you know, make sure your toilets, if it's not obvious, put a sign up or something like that, you know, just to make it clear to people how, you know, which button to choose to get the low flow option. So next slide, please. So yeah, I've mentioned leaking toilets a few times. So all those business visits that Thames have done, this is the biggest problem that they found. This is the biggest water waster, is toilets leaking water into the back of the pan. So you don't see a big puddle of water on the floor, you just see water dribbling down into the back of the toilet bowl. And it's a problem with the design and the materials that are used in modern toilets. So yeah, pretty scary figures really. So these toilets, you know, they're wasting hundreds of litres a day. Around 5 to 8% of dual flush toilets are leaking, based on surveying different homes and businesses, and basically that's enough water being wasted to supply the needs of all of those cities. So yeah, it's a ridiculous waste of water, and it's one that's quite easy to sort out. Just, you know, you just need to make sure that in your facilities management or your cleaning sort of contract, people are looking for the leaky toilets. Your staff are looking for the leaking toilets as well. If you see them, report them, and then, you know, the fixes are usually pretty cheap. Showers is another good one, particularly on the energy side of things. So if you've got showers, people cycling into work, that sort of thing, you can get a whole range of different flow rates. Anything under 8 litres is usually classed as efficient, but just cutting down shower times, and you can do that with behaviours, just encouraging people to spend a little bit less time in the shower, can save hundreds of pounds a year, because of that combination of water and energy costs. So next slide. So how can you find these water efficient products? There is a water label, like the energy label, that you can use, but it's not high profile. It's fairly invisible to consumers. But the good thing is the UK governments have committed to bringing in a water efficiency label. So all the products like showers and taps and the like, dishwashers and things, will have a water efficiency label from 2025. So you'll be able to choose based on energy efficiency and water efficiency when you're installing kit or specifying what you want. So that's brilliant. Bring it on. And then yeah, the third area was about water saving culture. So it's no good having efficient devices if people like leave the tap on, that sort of thing. So you need to demonstrate buy-in to people. You know, this is important to your organisation.
Oh, sorry.
This is important to your
sorry.
organisation. Maybe have a sort of a champion. Look at highlighting the why. We've got loads of posters and things on our website that can help you with that, and also the how. You know, what can people actually do, and give people feedback as well. You know, so if you're setting a target to reduce water use over the next sort of year or two, you know, give people sort of feedback so they stay motivated. It's not just for your staff, it's a great way to engage with visitors and clients as well. So next slide, please, Camilla.
Sorry for jumping around.
Just because I know we there's a lot of slides, but you're going to get them at the end of the after the event. But in terms of next steps, so things you could do over the next week or so. Next slide, please, Camilla. So one of the things you could do is talk to your retail water company. So this is the organisation that's billing you for water. So it could be an organisation like Wave or Business Stream or Castle Water, for example. So talk to them and ask them what they can do to help you save water in your business. See what they offer. You are able to switch water retailer as well. So if you're not happy with what you're getting, the service you're getting, you can find another provider and switch. So yeah, you can demand more on water demand from your water retailer. So next slide, please. And the other thing you can do is come to us at Waterwise. You know, we're the sort of subject matter experts around water efficiency. So yeah, please, you know, we've got loads of stuff on the website. We've got guides for offices. We run a recognition scheme for water saving in offices. So we're here to help, basically. So yeah, just you can give us a shout. So next slide, please. So I think it's the last slide. So yeah, just to wrap up, it's been a bit of a canter through in the 20 minutes or so, but basically saving water. You know, we're facing a climate and ecological emergency, and using water efficiency in your business can help address that, both adapting to climate change and also reducing emissions and part of your net zero journey. It can save you money. It can make your business more resilient to drought and to those sorts of measures. It can also help enhance your local environment, which is where the water ultimately comes from. And it's a great way of demonstrating your sustainability credentials to people. It's a visible way of demonstrating that. It's an area that's getting a lot more focus. You know, you're going to see a lot happening over the next few years, not just the water label, but this new legal target, statutory target to reduce business water demand by 9%. That's going to start sort of coming through. And it's a challenge there. You know, could your business set a target to reduce water demand by 9%? And as I said just now, yeah, we're here to help at Waterwise. So you can always reach out, find us through the website, email us, whatever. And we can take it from there and help you with your water saving journey. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Nathan. That was brilliant. Just while Val is switching over to share her slides, I mean, all that you were saying resonates directly with what we ask people to do with the Investors in the Environment programme, which is measure their usage and then take steps to reduce it. And we ask people to set a target of at least 2%, which would tie in well with the statutory target. I'm sure a question, you know, we'll talk about measurement later, because that's something that people can find difficult. But Val, do you want to share your screen?
Okay, so hello everyone, good afternoon. I'm Val Neech. I'm the Trade Effluent Regulation Manager from Anglian Water. So Camilla had invited me along today to talk about things that we can all do to reduce pollution, which ties into protecting those vital water supplies, and all of the points that Nathan talked about just now are really, really relevant to all of us. So just quickly, the purpose of today, as I say, is just to explain to you, I say to you what my team does specifically, then what you can do as different organisations, but also things that you can do at home, and you can also share these with your friends and family as well. And it doesn't matter where you are in the country. These are, just because it's branded as Anglian Water, these are all things that water companies would all advocate. In terms of timings, I'm going to talk for about 15-20 minutes. If you've got any questions, as Camilla said, please pop them in the Q&A, and we'd welcome any feedback in the comments as well. So there's just a quick summary of the agenda for my presentation. I'll do a quick introduction slide about my team, then I'll talk about the role of Anglian Water, what your business can do, what Anglian Water is doing to get river positive, and also what we're doing to keep those taps flowing today and tomorrow, and then Q&A, and then there's some links for further information and resources at the end. So this slide here shows kind of the purpose of my team. So in the Trade Effluent team in Anglian Water, we are responsible for managing the inputs from third-party sites into our sewers and then ultimately into the environment. So I just wanted to show you some examples of what happens when it goes wrong. So the picture bottom left, the green, that is where too much drainage dye has been used as part of a tracing incident. The picture where you've kind of got that pink sludgy stuff next to the question mark, that is where an effluent treatment plant has failed. The sludge holding tank was overtopped. That ended up in our surface water system. Thankfully, we had a surface water pumping station, which meant that it was contained and none of that was actually released to the environment. So we were fortunate that our infrastructure enabled us to contain it. In other areas, we may not have been so lucky. The top picture with the foam and the red, that is where a holding tank from an abattoir had failed. So that was blood in the river. And then the last slide where you've kind of got a close-up of that gooey slime and the fungus growing in the watercourse is where we had a fragrance company were discharging trade effluent illegally into the surface water drain. And this was reported, it's quite in a rural area, it was reported by a member of the public, and they said at weekends it smells like bubble bath sort of thing. So that kind of helped us in terms of narrowing it down to where it came from. So I just thought those pictures were quite useful to show you in terms of what happens when it goes wrong. So in terms of Anglian Water's role, our purpose is to bring environmental and social prosperity to the region we serve through our commitment to love every drop. And we've got 3 key values that we do that through. So always exploring, do the right thing, and building trust. So we recognise the special responsibility that we hold as a monopoly provider of essential public service, and we have a duty to deliver wider benefits to society above and beyond the provision of fresh, clean water. So that responsibility is woven through our long-term strategic direction statement and our 5-year business plan, which are shaped around the need to facilitate growth in our region, unlock the opportunities for customers and stakeholders, and to safeguard our environment and provide a resilient supply for generations to come. So if you are interested in some further reading, they are available on our website as well. So obviously Nathan's kind of touched on some top tips in terms of water saving and practical things that your organisations can do. So some of these are repeated, but some of them are also focused on pollution as well, and things that you can do to make sure that that pollution risk from your premises is reduced. So the first thing that we would recommend is that you have a drainage plan of your site. Make sure you know where all the various sewers go to, what do they serve, and get those mapped. Often we will have pollution incidents where people say, we didn't realise that went out to the river. So it's really important that you have those drainage plans available. Colour-coded drains is another one. So spray paint them red for foul, blue for surface water, and that just makes it easier so that if you do have a problem on site, you've got that plan and those colour codes to kind of alert people to what goes where. Fill kits are really important as well, making sure that those are available, and if they're used, make sure someone is responsible for getting them topped up again as well. We've been out to incidents where someone's used the spill kit and then not topped it up afterwards. Something else that's really important is around chemical use on site. So making sure you know what you use, what does it talk about for the disposal of it on the safety data sheet, what is the correct disposal route for it. A lot of them will advise against putting them down the sewer. Emergency procedures are really, really important as well. Sometimes we will go out to an incident and people will have those procedures, but actually only one person knew about them. They'd been written but not shared widely. So it's making sure that that training and that knowledge is available of what to do in an emergency. So we will have situations where, or scenarios that we set up to kind of enact those emergency procedures. So we're working with the Environment Agency up in Lincoln to go through what would happen if our treatment process was knocked out by a pollution up at Cannock. So it's practicing those kind of real life situations that can be really, really valuable. Reporting a pollution as well. So I'll talk about that a little bit more on the next slide. But all water companies would advise it is so important to, if you see anything unusual in a watercourse, report it to your local water company so that they can act quickly. Correct use of sewers is really, really important. So making sure that what goes into your foul sewer, so that's, you know, contents of lavatories, toilets, that type of thing, is only the 3 Ps: pee, paper and poo. We don't want any fat soils or grease in our sewers because they cause blockages, which can cause a pollution. And also it's important for businesses as well around the correct use of sewers, making sure that our foul sewers are not being filled up with rainwater as well. So if you are having any building work done, making sure that the surface water is going to the correct system. Modern buildings are built on separate surface water and foul systems. Something else that we would promote as well is rainwater reuse as well. So capturing that rainwater, it's free, it's falling out the sky, use it, sort of thing, in your processes if you are able to. Drainage alterations on site as well. If you're having anything done, make sure that it's going to the correct location. We've had pollution incidents where we've ended up with sausages on one of the screens of our water recycling centre because a company rerouted a fryer and didn't have the correct mapping done, and it completely bypassed their treatment plant on site, which meant we ended up with all this debris on our screens. Obviously the screen is there designed to take it out, but you know, we don't expect sausages in our sewers. Fix leaks as well, as Nathan said, that is really, really important. And I hadn't realised that the figure is as high as it is in terms of the water that is lost to leakage. So there's other water saving things that you can do as well, just and at home as well, simple things like making sure the dishwasher is full, the washing machine is full before you put them on. Something that we do at home is our boilers downstairs in our utility room, and when you run the shower upstairs, it takes quite a long time for the water to come through. So we just pop a bucket under the shower while it's running, while it's getting warm, and then just use that to flush the toilet. So that's, you know, good 8-10 litres of you know, fresh water that if we didn't do that, that would be going down the drain. So just little things like that that all make a significant difference. So I've talked around pollution. Water pollution can be caused by blocked drains. So if you see any of the following in a stream or a river or a waterway, let us know about it. At Anglian Water, we've got a zero pollution mindset, and we want our customers to do the same. So if you see any wet wipes or toilet paper or human waste or something smells unusual in a watercourse, or if there's any foam or milky looking fluids, any sanitary products or fatty or greasy film on the surface of the water, or any dead or gasping fish, please contact your local water company to report that so that they can investigate, because sometimes things do go wrong, and if there is an escape of sewage from one of our assets, then we would want to know about it, and by reporting it directly to us, we can act more quickly. So the Anglian Water number is on there, and your local water company will have a similar 24-hour hotline as well. Just some facts and figures for you. So 80% of blockages are avoidable. We clear roughly 40,000 every year in the Anglian Water region. So that's about one blockage every 15 minutes. Okay, so the next slide, I'd like to talk to you about Get River Positive. So rivers are the lifeblood of our community, and we know that there is more that we need to do in making sure that all our rivers are the healthiest they can be. And our Get River Positive campaign is a firm commitment to act now to protect and revitalise those rivers. So we've joined forces with Severn Trent to get River Positive by 2030, working collaboratively to drive real action and make the changes we all want to for a better future for our rivers and environment. The programme is seeing us partner in radical ways like we've never done before, with farmers, landowners, river groups and other global leaders to lead the change. So Get River Positive is made up of 5 commitments to ensure that we protect our river health. So the first one is, and you will have probably heard and read a lot about this in the media, is about storm overflows, sewage treatment works. So we need to make sure that our storm overflows, sewage treatment works and abstraction does not harm the environment. So based on the Environment Agency measures, so reasons for not achieving good ecological status, we will aim to ensure that our operations will not be the reason for unhealthy rivers by 2030. So we will reduce our storm spills to an average of 20 per year by 2025. In the previous AMP period, so we're the AMP that we're in at the moment finishes at the start of 2025. So from 2020 to 2025, we will have installed 22,000 sewer monitors and monitors on our outfalls to the environment to make sure that we are not basically these monitors record the spills, so we can make sure that if those spills are triggering, it's within our permitted conditions. And from 2025 to 2030, we will be installing an additional 20,000 monitors. We've got an interactive customer map on our website, which enables customers to see when and where those monitors are triggering and how long for. So we also want to be able to create more opportunities for everyone to enjoy our rivers. So within 10 years, we want 90% of the population in the Anglian Water region to live within an hour's distance of bathing quality rivers. So just this year, we have introduced a new bathing water at Rutland Water, as in one of the inland ones. And we've identified a further 19 potential inland bathing waters across our region as well. So we also want to be able to support others to help improve and care for our rivers. So we have launched new projects working with farmers and other partnerships to incentivise the regenerative farming practices through partnership working. So we're going to work with farmers and landowners seeking to inform new strategic partnership with the agricultural sector, working together to tackle river health, including point source and diffuse pollution across the east of England. So we will also be campaigning for the removal of the automatic right to connect for new developments. So as Nathan touched on in his presentation, there are some areas of the country where there is a shortage of water and the water resources are so stretched. So we will be championing the bill to ban wet wipes that contain plastic and also ask for a ban on all wet wipes that are not fine to flush. You may have seen in the media examples of fatbergs that are often found in city centres, and that is a result of a change in consumer habits over the last couple of decades. We'll also be continuing to invest in the landscape scale initiatives in places such as Norfolk, so our flagship chalk stream, the River Lark in Suffolk, and across the Fen, seeking to improve river environment whilst enabling the agri-food sector to flourish. So we will engage with river groups and local rivers trust in our region to identify and seek to cost the actions required to eliminate all of the reasons for not achieving good ecological status, working in partnership with farmers and landowners, as well as highways authorities and others. We will also launch a fund for river groups and communities to support citizen science to enhance the monitoring of rivers in our region. So this is a project as a scientist that I'm really excited about. So this went live last week, and what we've done is we have given local community groups monitoring and test kits, so they can test the quality of the water there and then, and they can build up a picture over time of how the water quality is changing or improving in their area. They can use that information to alert us to a potential pollution as well. It's really valuable because we'll be collecting data in a way that we've never collected it before. And we'll also be making sure that we enhance our rivers and create new habitats so wildlife can thrive. So we're working with the Environment Agency, rivers groups and local river trusts to identify and prioritise the need for river flow improvements, reduce subtraction where necessary, and develop new resources where needed. This is in order to ensure that sufficient flows to enable rivers to function in as near a natural state as possible. So we've been working in partnership with others to ensure the successful reintroduction of iconic fish species, beavers in the landscape in the east of England. So at the Spain's Hall estate in Finchinbrook in Essex, we have reintroduced beavers working with the estate and the Environment Agency, and we are also looking at supporting the reintroduction of bison in Lincolnshire as well. So working with Water Resources East, we will use tools such as the systematic conservation planning to support ours and others' decision making around investment in natural capital interventions. And we'll also be working to work with local communities and river groups to understand the issues that matter most to them in local catchments so that we can work with them to develop action plans and investments in our proposals. And we'll be playing our part in reaching the water industry's commitment to plant 11 million trees by 2030. So one of our final commitments of Get River Positive is be open and transparent about our performance and our plans. So we want to work with NGOs to ensure that we provide easily accessible water quality information via our website. So there is a postcode search that currently exists for our customers, so you can go online and check the water quality via our website as well. And we will be sharing our proposals at the Water Industry National Environment Programme, also known as WINEP, with river groups and local rivers trusts in our region, and we'll look to develop partnerships and funding opportunities as part of this programme. And in 2023, we have convened an expert panel, including key academics and thought leaders, to oversee our river health strategy, providing scrutiny and challenge of our work and identifying research opportunities for further improvements. So the next thing I wanted to talk to you about was about keeping the taps flowing today and tomorrow, and what Anglian Water are doing to ensure that we have got those future water supplies for our customers. So we get much less rain in this region compared to the rest of the UK, which is why we've been determined to cut leakage for such a long time. We are high performing in the industry, and our leakage is half that of the rest of the UK, so we are way ahead in terms of our Ofwat targets, but we're not sitting still. We plan to invest millions of pounds more to reduce leakage even further, and we're exploring innovative technologies like robots and drones to help us do that. So our SPA, which is part of our strategic pipeline alliance. So we are creating hundreds of kilometres of new interconnecting pipes to help us move water more freely around the region. So some of the pipeline, just to kind of give you a scale of the figures for that, is we're building a pipeline that will be 52 kilometres from Elsham to Lincoln, 34 kilometres from Lincoln to Grantham, 90 kilometres from Grantham to Bexwell via Peterborough, 71 kilometre pipeline from Bexwell to Bury St Edmunds, and a 69-kilometre pipeline from Bury St Edmunds to Colchester, and a 12.5-kilometre pipeline from Norwich to Wymondham. So what that will enable us to do is to move water from the north of the region down to the south and the east, where it is much drier. And that will make sure that more of our customers have got that secure water supply so that we can cope with those demands of additional water resources. And it will also strengthen our local resilience by reducing the numbers of homes and businesses which rely on a single water source. So the Strategic Pipeline Alliance will invest in our region. It's a multi-million-pound investment, and once complete, the new network will be longer than any UK motorway. So it's a significant part of our investment, and it is making us more resilient to the risks of drought. And the programme also enables sustainable economic housing development for a rapid growing population. So the pipeline as well shows that we're caring about the environment. So it will help meet our targets, to reduce the amount of water that we take from the environment by 84 million litres a day, and help us to combat climate change. But we've also had to think about the impact on wildlife and habitats too. So that's why we've specifically designed the pipeline to bypass sensitive ecological sites where environmental surveys have found protected species like badgers, waterfowl, bats and great crested newts. And we'll also be cutting down on our carbon emissions. So by bringing that water from the north of the region to the south without increasing carbon emissions is tricky, especially as a high proportion of the sites sit on flat and low-lying areas. So a lot of energy would normally be needed to move this water around. But our teams have been using smart engineering and cutting-edge technology to design these pipes to be energy efficient. And the entire pipeline will have been designed to have the lowest carbon footprint possible, in line with our pledge to reach net carbon by 2030. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a flavour of what we're doing to kind of reduce pollutions, get river positive, and how we're supporting the local community and businesses in terms of supplying water for the future. So on the slides that Camilla will circulate, there's some links there for the environment pages on the Anglian Water website. And then also as well, there's some EA guidance for pollution prevention for businesses as well. So I would really recommend that you have a read through those. And then thank you for listening, and be happy to take any questions.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Val. Years ago, I was at a London event when Ken Livingstone was the mayor, and he proudly stood up and said, "If it's brown, flush it down. If it's yellow, let it mellow." And it stayed with me for a long time. But I'm going to now adopt the 3 Ps as well. So and I know that the yellow and the yellow and mellow doesn't quite work in all business situations, but it's actually it's a good one to remember in the home environment, maybe. Okay, we've had a couple of questions. Jenny, hopefully, can you should be unmuted, so do you want to ask your question? Can we still hear her?
I did just message you back. I've got a bit of background noise, so hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it was just to do with like grey water storage. So Valerie said about obviously putting a bucket in the shower, and actually I was on a course yesterday where they mentioned that. But I know like places like Japan, their hand washing sinks actually feed into their cisterns. And I just wondered if anyone had done any research on it, or if there is anywhere you can sort of direct us to. So if we're like upgrading our bathrooms, or if we want to invest in that sort of thing, where we might be able to, I don't know, where there might be sort of products we can be looking at, etc.
Yeah, that's a great question. We're way behind other countries on this. So like you go to Japan or the Netherlands or Germany, you know, they recycle loads more water than we do. In fact, if you build a new building, you have to have a rainwater tank and plumb it in with the dual pipe system, but we don't have that in the UK. So we end up having to try and retrofit things in, which is more expensive and more difficult generally. So it'd be much better if we could like build it in at the beginning, I suppose. That's the first point. And then the second point, yeah, there are things out there on the market, like, you know, sinks that drain into the toilet cistern, so that you sort of top it up with what you've washed your hands in, that sort of thing. And companies out there like SDS and Aquility that provide bigger scale solutions as well for businesses. You know, so they'll look at how much water you could get and how you could use it and make sure the two things match up. So yeah, there are solutions out there, and there are companies, businesses that will look at your situation and sort of find the right solution for you.
Can you link it in? Is it easy to link it in so that your meter doesn't whir around quite so much if you've got grey water, you know, rainwater harvesting or grey water usage?
Yeah, because if you're using it for something that's means you're not using drinking water from,
You're just not pulling it off.
You're just not pulling it through.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a direct saving on that, but also on your effluent charges as well, because, you know, those are based on what's coming through the meter. So
because they're purely based on what's coming through, what's coming in, rather than it being measuring what's going out. Yeah.
It'd be useful to know then as well as if anyone has done if there are any calculators for this, because I know we've got all sorts of CO2 carbon calculators, etc., haven't we? But whether we've got you know, anyone's done any studies on how much water can be saved, because obviously if we can link it to cost savings, it's always a little bit more attractive, isn't it, than just saving the planet for some reason. So
yeah, I'm just putting a couple of names of companies that do this sort of stuff into the chat, and I'll try and, if I can, I'll link a report. I know there's a report as well which looks at costs and benefits of this sort of technology at different scales.
We can send those links through round as well at the end for those who
Okay.
can't extract it immediately. So Stuart had a question. Stuart, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, happy to. I'm showing my age now because I worked with Nathan about 20 years ago, so I'm getting a bit old now.
Not possible. Not
no,
possible.
No, I still look 21. It's just around the scale of the change. Obviously, the ambition is for a 9% reduction for businesses. Do you think that's enough, or do you think we should be pursuing more savings based on the numbers you gave at the beginning, where demand is increasing and supply obviously is lower? So should we be looking to do more than the 9%?
I would say yes, because I mean, just looking at that amount of water that's wasted that is coming into business premises, you know, that's like 30% of the consumption is being wasted potentially. So yeah, I think we could go much higher than 9%. I mean, we did try and lobby the government to go a bit higher, but they were nervous about you know, about that. So yeah, in the end, I mean, we were pleased that they've included non-household, because often they focus on homes. You know, it's about like consumption at homes and etc. And I said, well, actually, there's a big opportunity in the bit for businesses as well, to help deliver some of those benefits and to help meet the water scarcity challenge. So we were pleased to see it included, but we'd have liked a lot bigger number, you know, like 20%, something like that, I think.
Do you think we don't value water enough? We've seen with the sort of energy crisis going on, obviously energy prices have rocketed, which meant people are now thinking about efficiencies. Do we need to see something similar in the water sector as well, with price increases to reflect true costs?
I think so. I mean, water is very cheap. It's a difficult argument to make because obviously there are cost of living issues as well, but you can help provide support for that side of things. But yeah, water's very cheap, and we're cheap compared to other countries as well, you know, relative to our GDP. So, and there's some real weird things like businesses, you know, some of the tariffs that are charged are, the more water you use, the cheaper it is. You know, that doesn't make sense. You know, we must be in a better to get to a more sensible position. And also with things like smart meters, you can start playing tunes with tariffs so that you could charge perhaps more for water when there's less available, you know, so that it relates to the availability. So I think we are going to see some shifts on that, but as a general comment, I'd agree that yeah, water's cheap. That's why we've been pushing a bit on the energy side of things as well, that energy link and the cost of energy, because often, you know, the two things combined makes a more compelling business case for action.
Thank you. Val, you had your hand up.
I was just going to kind of add to what Nathan had said as well in terms of, so when we go out to do our price review submission to Ofwat as part of our 5-year investment cycles, when we've done consultation with our customers, they have said, you know, water is cheap, we would rather pay more for it to make sure that the infrastructure is upgraded so that it does support the local community and the economy, because, you know, there's been such a focus in keeping bills down, but actually as a result of that we haven't always been able to invest where we need to, and that's probably driven some of those behaviours as well. It's seen as a cheap commodity. So I think that will change in the future as well.
Yeah. We're sort of on the hour, but I don't know if the Bell Equine team are still on the call, and if they had a question that we were asked earlier on in the week. Anyway, I've unmuted you, so or you can speak if you want to. You might have to still unmute your own microphone if you'd like to ask your question. I had a question about how smart meters are being prioritised, because measurement, a lot of our members have real issues with trying to measure, you know, even set their baseline, because, you know, the meter is, I don't know, in somebody else's building sometimes, and how quickly those smart meters or metering is going to improve.
Yeah, there's something we've been really lobbying hard on the government, because a few years ago it was there was a bit of a negative sort of view about metering, but it's sort of swung around now because people can see the benefits. So most of the water companies in England have got big metering programs, smart metering programs, and those will include non-household businesses. So although I think something like 98% of businesses have got meters, they're generally the dumb ones that, you know, you literally have to walk to the meter, find it, look in it, and write down the number. The smart meters will give like quarter hourly measurements, what hourly measurements, so you get to see almost like real time what water's being used and where it's, you know, how much. So that rollout's over the next 10 years. So there's going to be, you know, most businesses are going to see a smart meter in the next 10 years. If you want a solution
just in time to miss the targets, almost.
Yeah.
No, not quite.
It's a massive program. It's a massive program. There's literally millions of these things needing to be installed. But if you want to know sooner than that, you know, there are you can do things like put data loggers on that give you more, you know, give you data more frequently than dumb meters. So that's an option.
Right, brilliant. Yes, I'm also interested in about how that target is going to be driven or implemented, or what will the consequences be? Is that all still being unravelled?
Yeah, so it's all quite new. That was like January, February this year. That's been announced, and it's only just gone into law. So it is a new thing. We've been pushing the government and saying, well, we need a big like publicity campaign about this. You know, most businesses will not know anything about that target and what they can do to help. So yeah, it's a great opportunity to have a bit of a sort of launch around it. Maybe we could be, you know, maybe there could be some sort of incentive scheme for businesses as well that could demonstrate that they've like gone beyond the 9%, you know, that they get some, you know, something back. So yeah, I think it's a great thing that's happened, having that as a legal target. But there's loads more we could do with, you know, engaging businesses about it and how they can help sort of contribute and meet it.
Yeah. Right, I've started sharing my screen again. Just to quickly, I don't know if can you see that now? Can you see my next events? I just wanted to we need to wrap up because people have, I always say that they're going to be an hour, these events, but that was, you know, amazing. I could have carried on talking for ages. I just wanted to highlight our next few webinars that are coming up. In July, we're talking about using the IIE framework to set net zero carbon targets. Then taking a month off in August, and in September we're talking about carbon offsetting with our partner, who are called Forest Carbon, and demystifying kind of offsetting a little bit. And we've got a provisional date with Jen Gale to talk about an introduction to carbon literacy for the veterinary sector. So please keep sign up for those, or keep your eyes peeled on your emails for the reminders about those events. And then just to give a quick plug to our training, it's on our website in the training under the training tab. But some of that is IEMA certified, so great for CPD. And our Investors in the Environment Green Champion training is great for individuals who want to kind of improve their environmental management skills.